Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for iFive for the iPhone is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This episode of iFive for the iPhone is brought to you by Gazelle, the fast and simple way to sell your used gadgets. Find out what your used iPhone, iPad, and other Apple products are worth at Gazelle.com. Hello everybody, this is iFive for the iPhone, episode 114. This is the show where we cover the latest iPhone apps and tips and tricks, and of course news, when applicable. And this week, it's applicable. I'm Sarah Lane, and I'm rooting for the Giants in the World Series because, well, I'll never be a Royal. It doesn't run in my blood, but that's another show. On to number one. So, iOS 8.1 went live on Monday. Pretty easy install for me. Took me, 20 minutes on my iPhone 6 Plus here. By the way, we're getting along really well these days. I'm glad I went big. Who would have thunk it? Now, you might be holding off on iOS 8.1 yourself because sometimes iOS updates end up having bugs and even bricking phones. Remember the old iOS 8.0.1 update of infamy that killed people's cellular connections and Touch ID? That's not really anything anybody wants. So if you haven't updated yet, you're probably smarter than me, but I can't help myself. So iOS 8 is only about a month old. What's already new in iOS 8.1? Bunch of cool stuff, turns out. I thought I'd highlight a few of my favorites over the next few weeks, but today it's all about texting. I love texting. If you and a friend both have iMessage, you know that you can talk back and forth, not just on your iPhone or your iPad, but also your Mac, right? It's all messages, iMessage. It's all the same thing. Well, a new feature in iOS 8.1 lets you get text messages from non-iPhone people, like Android friends, via SMS, or people who just have iMessage turned off and are using the SMS protocol. It's tied to your phone number on your Mac or other iOS device as well, and then you can write back on your Mac or other iOS device that isn't your iPhone. So here's how it works. You go to Settings, you scroll down to Messages, you tap Text Message Forwarding, and then you turn on whatever devices. They're also connected to your iCloud account, so that's what'll show up if you want access on those devices to send and receive messages. Easy as that. Now, I'm not going to go through each and every iOS 8.1 feature on this particular episode. We'll leave some of them for next week. But there is a big new feature that deserves its own spot here on iFive because it's a pretty big deal. Which brings us to number 2, and that is Apple Pay. Okay, so I understand that Apple didn't invent NFC, that stands for Near Field Communication, which is what Apple Pay in an actual retail store depends on for an iPhone 6 or a 6 Plus. In fact, Google's been supporting NFC for years. So why is everybody so excited about Apple Pay now? Apple's marketing machine. The company has skills in making technology that already exists seem like it was their idea. They're just good at that. Now, we know better, but it's still cool. Apple Pay is Apple's way of letting you pay for stuff at checkout without having to use a credit card because the information is already stored in your phone. Turning on Apple Pay is hidden inside Passbook. I actually had a hard time figuring that out. Maybe I'm just very dense. But once you activate it, the process is very simple. The card I wanted to use was already in Apple's system because I use it for iTunes purchases, but I could just have scanned my card and added it that way. That's pretty seamless. I tried it with a different card earlier today. Now, because I have a Bank of America debit card, I did have to call Bank of America's Apple Pay customer service number and speak to an actual person in order to authorize this card. I thought that was a little bit annoying. In fact, I asked the guy on the phone, does everybody have to do this? And he said, yes. This is a Bank of America security measure designed for your security. Okay, fine. It's probably better safe than sorry. So here's the deal. Not only can I use Apple Pay at a participating retailer like, Walgreens or Whole Foods. Those are 2 stores I actually go to every single week, so I'm already happy. And I don't have to have my card on me. But I can also use Apple Pay within apps that support it to buy stuff. It happens to me all the time. How many times have you reached for your laptop because you want to finish a purchase, because entering that credit card number on your phone is kind of cumbersome and your phone's not big enough? Maybe the 6 Plus people don't have that issue anymore, but In general, I do that stuff on my laptop. Apple Pay still needs some work. Merchants need the right software in order to support NFC in the iPhone 6 and the 6 Plus. That's not just going to happen overnight. In fact, there are quite a few stores that say that they're partners, but you can't just go in there and use Apple Pay right this second. But I would venture a guess that by this time next year, we will all be using Apple Pay all the darn time and wondering how life used to be. Mark my words. Number 3, we got an email from Damon Ferguson who pointed us to a great little Gizmodo article that highlights a bunch of new things you can do if you're running OS X Yosemite on a Mac. Now, Yosemite went live for free last Thursday. That was the same day as Apple's iPad event. And one of the coolest things that you can do with it is record your iPhone screen via QuickTime. So this is a tip for sure for anybody running Yosemite on a Mac and also has an iPhone or an iPad. You just plug in your iPhone to your Mac, use a lightning cable, and then Yosemite lets you record screen activity quickly and easily as long as your iPhone is running iOS 8. That's the key. Once you're connected, open the QuickTime Player app, choose File and New Screen Recording, and then select your phone. It would work with an iPad too, from the drop-down list next to the Record button. Now, I don't know if you or ever curious about how the sausage is made, but here on iFive, we actually shoot our own iPhone close-ups with a separate camera over my shoulder because we like the context of where my hands are and what I'm tapping on the screen. We do that on an iPad today too. It's just a preference thing. But if you are interested in shooting a demo or a show and tell of some kind, and you have a newer iPhone and a Mac running OS X Yosemite, you're more unstoppable than ever. This episode of iFive for the iPhone is brought to you by Gazelle. Timing could not be better to be a Gazelle customer. If you're thinking about getting the new iPad, we got announcements last week. You want a gold iPad? Well, Gazelle wants to buy your used iPhone or iPad or smartphone for cash. You know, I love this guy. He's in great shape. I could get a lot of money for this. Gazelle makes selling your used iPhone or iPad fast and simple. Here's what you do. Go to gazelle.com, that's Gazelle.com, and find your item. Tell Gazelle the condition it's in. Maybe there's a scratch or two on the back of your device. That's okay. They even buy broken iPhones and iPads, and then you get a risk-free offer for your gadgets, and Gazelle will even throw in free shipping. When it's time to get paid, you get paid fast by check, by PayPal, or get an extra 5% with an Amazon gift card. Amazon users know gift cards are great. Go to gazelle.com now and get an offer for that iPhone or iPad. And here's what's cool. You can lock in today's price for 30 days. So once you lock in that price, it won't change even if your iPhone goes down in value between now and then. So do it now, because the longer you wait, the longer your gadgets have chances to lose value. You want an iPhone 6 Plus or an iPhone 6? What is your current iPhone worth? Take a minute and go to gazelle.com to find out. But do it now, because your gadgets lose value the longer you wait. Thank you so much to Gazelle for sponsoring this episode of iFive. Number 4. So, who here uses Vine and is making like a ton of money uploading 6-second videos all day long? I've heard about these people. No? No, me either. I don't really get that actually. Kids these days. But the app itself did get a nice update, and I don't want to bury my head in the sand and pretend that Vine isn't very popular, so I thought I'd pass along what's new. You can now follow channels. So if you tap the plus button at the top of any Vine channel, you actually get featured posts from that channel into your feed. There are a lot of variables here, you know, how many people have seen the post, how popular they are, that sort of thing. Maybe you like football, or maybe you like cats, or maybe you like hamburgers. Hey, I like all three. You can go nuts. You can also use iOS 8's Share extension feature to share videos directly from your camera roll or other video apps, videos you've already taken, and then share them inside of Vine instead of having to shoot everything inside the app itself, which can be kind of limiting. The design got a nice update as well, so it's optimized for the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus. You know, you gotta update your apps. Of course, the goal of Vine hasn't changed. You're creating short, looping videos. Sometimes they're really creative, sometimes they're really funny, and you're sharing with your friends and looking at the videos in your friends' feed, and none of that has changed. I still basically never have the urge to fire up the app and make a contribution, but again, it's always seemed like I'm not totally the target audience here. I do like lurking though. Lurking is fun. Finally, number 5. We got an email from Mike in Tucson, Arizona, who has a duh tip for the iPhone 6 Plus specifically that actually stumped me a little. Mike writes, I happened to find a duh tip on my new iPhone 6 Plus. When you have a folder of apps that has multiple pages under that folder, when you turn your iPhone 6 Plus into landscape mode, it opens all the pages of the apps, which is a different behavior than the iPad in landscape mode. Kinda cool, huh? Well, it took me a little while to figure out why I couldn't replicate Mike's tip. So, here's what's going on. If your iPhone 6 Plus is set to zoomed in your display settings, you actually don't even get landscape mode. It's weird. I had it set to zoomed and I didn't even notice. It only works if your view is set to standard in your display and brightness settings. Obviously mine wasn't. I was playing around with it a couple weeks ago. So make sure your display zoom is in standard view. Then choose a folder containing multiple pages of apps. I have one for photography, and voila, just like Mike said, you can see them spread out side by side and then scroll that way. I'm not really sure how much that helps besides giving you a little context, but it's cool. And yeah, I kind of wish that was the case on my iPad too. Wonder why it isn't. That is it for this edition of iFive. Hope you had a great time. I certainly did. All of the apps and links and other information from this show is at twit.tv/iFive. You can subscribe there too. Email ideas or questions or general feedback to us at iFive@twit.tv. You can leave us a voicemail at 614 on iFive or send us a video with an app review of your own. I'm Sarah Lane and we'll see you next time on iFive for the iPhone.